Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Today Isle. I'm Clixian, and today I'll be picking oyster mushrooms from the wild. Now, this type of tree, I believe, is called an ash. I'm not 100% sure of that, but there are a number of them here. They're very distinctive. They have a certain type of foliage. Let me see if I can show you. It almost looks like a sumac tree in its foliage, but the berries are much different. They make red berries in the fall. And I've noticed these throughout my forest, and I've found out that these oyster mushrooms, they grow pretty much exclusively on this type of tree. And I keep finding flushes of them. Over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've probably picked close to 3 pounds of these things, and well, I'm about to get some more. They're delicious, and you can use them in a lot of different ways. I usually dehydrate the ones that we don't use fresh. So I'm going to pick some today. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this, but the way that I find easiest is essentially to just take a knife, like this one, just a regular kitchen knife, and trim it close to the stem. Don't mind shaky camera work. I'm just trying to get into this location. It's a bit dense, as you can see. That's me, and this is foliage. So, you can see how it's attached to the tree, if it will focus. And maybe it won't. But there's a clump, a foot, if you will, right here. And you want to cut it so that you leave a little bit of the foot back on the tree, because I want these to come back. I am contemplating taking some of this dead wood that's just hanging here. As you can see, this is a broken branch that these ones are growing on, and I might as well just bring it back to my property and have it in the back there, because I've noticed them directly in back of the house as well. So let me get this shot set up, and I'm going to start cutting some of these, and I'll show you how it's done. Well, unfortunately, I don't have my other camera here. This is just my phone camera, and I don't have my tripod, so I can't really set up a shot of me cutting these. But I'm going to show you a before and after. So this is what the clumps look like before, and I'm just going to harvest it, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second, where I leave the feet behind on the tree so they'll grow back. Alright, so this is what it looks like after. I have left some up there because they were eaten by slugs. As you can see, some of them had a lot of damage. So I left those ones. They're not as valuable to me, but speaking of value, finding your own mushrooms like this, it's actually quite rewarding because, well, I think they charge about $4 or $5 for a couple 100 grams of these, and this is what I've been able to harvest so far. And there's more to come, because there's actually another ash tree behind me with more of them on it. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty good haul, to be fair. I can't reach these ones. They're a little too high, and I don't want to break the branch. And there's some more up there, which, of course, are even higher. But the way you can tell that they're oyster mushrooms, if you happen to have the environment for it, is that they have decurrent gills. Decurrent means, wow, focus. Ah, there we go. Decurrent means that the gills are deep, and they run all the way to the stem. So they actually go from tip all the way to the stem, and there's no frill. It's not like a mushroom. It's almost like a bracket fungus in the way that it grows. And they should have a faint smell of black licorice or anise, and that's how you know it's an oyster mushroom. So I'm just going to continue along here. There's some up here I can see that focus, there we go, that I missed because I didn't notice this tree until today. But essentially they have gone past the point of picking. They're dried out, and they'd be tough and possibly even a little bit, bug eaten and all that good stuff. So not gonna go for those, but I'm gonna hit that other tree and see what I can gather, and I'll be back. So these mushrooms are quite dirty after bringing them in, so need to wash them out well. What I'm doing here is actually, I'm planning to dehydrate them, so I'm washing them out and then I'm giving them a squeeze to sort of get out any excess water. If I was eating them fresh, I wouldn't do that because obviously you do damage them this way, but because we're just going to be dehydrating them, it doesn't really matter so much. I usually take any kind of bug-eaten parts off of it, and I take any hard stems that are still attached off. Those will just go into the compost. It's a pretty quick process, just a matter of getting them clean, making sure there's no bugs. You know, don't want that extra protein. This is the finished product. Looks pretty good to me. Lots and lots of oyster mushrooms, ready to be dehydrated. Here's the dehydrator. Just going to load it up one layer at a time. Doesn't really matter if they're upside down or right side up. They're all going to be dehydrating anyway, so. You don't want to layer them on top of each other, and you don't want to layer them too thick, just to give them a chance to really dry out well. When you're using them dried, you can use them for a lot of different things. You can actually use them fairly whole dried and rehydrate them, which is great for soups and, you know, any kind of stir fries or anything like that you want to do. You can also crunch them up into a mushroom powder, which is very umami. You can use it just as a flavor additive for pretty much anything. Fantastic. Lots of great uses for these mushrooms. It said when they're fresh to use them as a fresh mushroom because they actually have the best flavor, which is true. These ones weren't the freshest. I did notice that they were a little bit damp. It had rained the day before, and I think they got quite wet. So that means, you know, their peak flavor is kind of past, so might as well use them as dehydrated mushrooms. Alright, let's come back once they're done. And this is the next morning. Let's take a look. And there they are. Perfectly dried and crisp. I usually just store them in a Ziploc bag, and this is what they look like when they're stored. Thanks for watching.